The Galactic Empire had long been the most feared and dominant force in the universe, conquering countless worlds and bringing them under their control. With their vast fleets and advanced technology, they had enslaved entire civilizations, turning them into nothing more than resources to fuel their endless expansion. Their cold, calculated rule stretched across the stars, and nothing seemed capable of stopping them. But now, they had set their sights on a small, insignificant planet, Earth. From their perspective, Earth was just another primitive world, one of many they had encountered throughout their campaign of conquest. The Empire's intelligence reports described Earth as underdeveloped, its inhabitants no more than a scattered collection of tribes with limited technology. Earth was isolated, far from the more advanced civilizations the Empire had encountered. To them, it was an easy target, a world ripe for the taking. They could wipe out humanity in a single blow and claim the planet's resources for themselves. It would be just another trophy for their ever-growing collection of conquered worlds. However, as the Empire began preparing for the invasion, something didn't sit right with Commander Zorath, the ruthless leader of the Empire's invasion force. He was a seasoned conqueror, having led countless campaigns across the galaxy, but there was something about Earth that seemed off. His intelligence officers had reported strange energy surges coming from the planet. They were unlike anything the Empire had ever detected before, powerful, unpredictable, and chaotic. The energy waves seemed to come from the planet's surface itself, as if Earth was alive in some way, pulsing with a strange power. At first, Commander Zorath dismissed these reports as nothing more than anomalies, perhaps some malfunction in the Empire's sensors or simple planetary radiation. But as more reports came in, it became clear that Earth wasn't as ordinary as it appeared. The energy surges were growing stronger, more frequent. It seemed almost as though the planet itself was reacting to the Empire's approach. This puzzled Zorath, but it also intrigued him. Was Earth really as weak as the intelligence reports had suggested, or was there something more hidden beneath its surface? The Empire had never encountered anything like this before, and for a moment, a feeling of unease crept into Zorath's mind. Still, the decision was made. The invasion would proceed. The Empire's fleet was already in position, ready to descend on Earth with their full might. There would be no hesitation, no second thoughts. Earth would be subdued, just as every other world had been. The Emperor's orders were clear, and Zorath was nothing if not obedient to them. He had no time for doubts or questions. The Empire's might was unstoppable, and even if Earth had some strange energy, it wouldn't be enough to stop them. As the massive fleet gathered in space, Zorath's War Council began finalizing their strategy. The plan was simple: land on Earth, neutralize any form of resistance, and take control of the planet's resources. The fleet consisted of dozens of battle cruisers, assault ships, and soldiers trained in the art of planetary conquest. It was a well-oiled machine, capable of taking down entire civilizations in a matter of days. But despite the Empire's confidence, there was a lingering uncertainty among the officers. Some of them voiced their concerns about the strange energy surges coming from Earth. What if this energy is a sign of something more dangerous? One officer asked. "We're going into this blind, Commander." Zorath remained unfazed. "The Empire does not fear the unknown," he replied coldly. "We conquer, we dominate. We will deal with whatever Earth has to throw at us. We always do." Yet, as the invasion fleet drew closer to Earth, a sense of foreboding lingered. The strange energy surges continued, their intensity increasing as the Empire's ships neared the planet. It felt as if Earth itself was awakening, preparing for something. Zorath couldn't explain it, but he couldn't ignore it either. His mind raced with possibilities. Could there be something hidden on Earth, something ancient and powerful? Could this small, primitive world hold a secret that the Empire hadn't accounted for? He dismissed the thought almost immediately. It was ridiculous. There were no ancient civilizations on Earth, no hidden technologies. Earth was just a weak, isolated planet. And yet, As the fleet descended through Earth's atmosphere, the energy pulses grew stronger, their effects more noticeable. Zorath felt a strange pressure building in his chest, as if the planet was somehow resisting their presence. It was a feeling he hadn't experienced before, a sensation of being watched, of being challenged. The fleet began to enter Earth's orbit, and the planet below came into full view. From space, Earth seemed peaceful. Its blue oceans, white clouds, and green landmasses looked serene, almost beautiful. But Zorath knew better. This was a world that would soon bow to the Empire. The Empire's flagship, the Dominion, led the way, its massive hull gleaming in the light of the distant sun. Behind it, the rest of the fleet followed in formation, ready to strike. And then, as if on cue, something unexpected happened. A signal, faint and fragmented, began to echo across the Empire's communication systems. It was a transmission from Earth, but this was no ordinary message. The signal was unlike anything Zorath or his officers had ever encountered. It was alien in a way they couldn't understand. The frequency was erratic, the language indecipherable. But there was something powerful in the transmission, something raw and primal, like a warning. Zorath's officers scrambled to analyze the signal, but no one could make sense of it. "Is this an attempt at communication?" one of Zorath's officers asked, confused. From the humans, Zorath stood in silence for a moment, staring at the screen. The signal wasn't like anything the Empire had encountered before. It wasn't the standard forms of communication the Empire used to subjugate worlds. It was something far older, something far more ancient. But even as the signal played, Zorath felt a strange pull in his gut. His instincts told him this was no ordinary transmission. "It's a warning," he said, his voice low. "The humans are trying to tell us something, but we are beyond their warnings. Prepare for landing. The invasion continues." The fleet continued its descent toward Earth, ignoring the strange signal. Zorath ordered the signal to be disregarded, and the invasion proceeded without hesitation. His mind was made up. The Empire was going to take Earth, no matter what. He had no time for superstitions or distractions. Earth's defenses were nothing compared to the Empire's might. But as the fleet moved closer, the energy pulses from the planet grew even stronger, like a storm building in intensity. Zorath could feel it now. Something was happening on Earth, something he hadn't anticipated. But it was too late to turn back. The Empire's forces were already in motion. What could possibly go wrong? As the fleet approached the planet's surface, Zorath had no idea just how wrong this invasion would go. As the fleet of the Galactic Empire descended toward Earth, Commander Zorath's mind remained focused on the mission. Earth was weak, underdeveloped, and far from the high-tech civilizations the Empire had conquered. Surely, this would be no different. The strange energy pulses still resonated in the background, but Zorath believed they were nothing more than a fluke, an anomaly caused by Earth's primitive atmosphere. He was certain that once the Empire's forces were on the ground, the planet's resistance would crumble under the might of their technology. As the ships touched down, massive shockwaves rippled across the Earth's surface, and a thunderous roar echoed through the skies. The Empire's soldiers began to deploy, marching out of the transports and securing the perimeter. The first wave of forces was tasked with establishing a secure landing zone and neutralizing any human resistance. The Empire had sent enough firepower to easily crush any opposition, and they expected little more than a few scattered attempts at defense from the planet's unprepared inhabitants. But something was wrong. The planet's atmosphere, which should have been easily manageable for the Empire's ships, was proving difficult to navigate. There were odd fluctuations in the air, subtle but disturbing. The Empire's ships, advanced, well-oiled machines of war, started to experience strange malfunctions. Communication systems flickered intermittently, and the energy shields on some of the smaller crafts failed. Crew members began reporting strange disturbances in their equipment, like energy surges they couldn't explain. Zorath, who had fought in countless battles, began to feel a rare sense of uncertainty creeping into his thoughts. His officers assured him that these were just technical issues, nothing more than minor glitches, but even as they tried to reassure him, Zorath couldn't shake the feeling that Earth was somehow fighting back, as if the planet itself was refusing to be conquered. He had ordered the invasion with unwavering confidence, but now, as the first wave of soldiers moved through Earth's atmosphere, he had to confront the fact that Earth was no ordinary planet. The first wave of assault teams began their advance on the ground. The soldiers moved through forests and urban landscapes, securing key locations as they went. But what they found on Earth was far from what they expected. The human resistance was small, but there was a strange unity among them, a resilience that felt unnatural. Ordinary humans, armed with little more than crude weapons, stood their ground, making it clear they would not go down without a fight. Zorath watched through the fleet's command center as reports came in. The humans, for all their primitiveness, fought with a fierceness that defied their supposed weakness. A group of humans, armed with basic firearms, had managed to ambush a group of Empire soldiers, taking out several before being overwhelmed. The resistance wasn't large, but it was far more organized than the Empire had anticipated. Zorath growled under his breath, frustration building. It was clear that the human defenders were using the terrain to their advantage. They were hiding in the forests, using guerrilla tactics to take down Empire soldiers. They knew the land, its hiding spots, its escape routes. The Empire had not expected the humans to fight back like this, especially not with such coordination. Back at the Empire's landing zone, Dr. Elena Blackwell, one of Earth's leading scientists, stood with her team in a hidden underground lab, working furiously. She had been monitoring the energy surges that had puzzled the Empire and had come to a disturbing conclusion. The planet's energy pulses were not random. They were the result of something ancient, something buried deep beneath the surface of the Earth. Dr. Blackwell and her team had discovered ancient ruins, hidden away in remote corners of the planet. These ruins, while not advanced by the Empire's standards, held the key to an ancient power that had once belonged to a long-lost civilization. As the Empire's ships descended, the energy surges had begun to intensify, almost as if the planet itself was awakening. And now, as the Empire's soldiers advanced, it became clear that Earth was more than just a planet. It was a sleeping giant, one that was beginning to stir. In the midst of the chaos, Dr. Blackwell made a breakthrough. As she connected her team's findings to the energy surges, she realized the full extent of the ancient technology buried beneath Earth's surface. The energy pulses were not random. They were a defense mechanism, a powerful response to any external threat. Earth was reacting to the Empire's invasion, and it wasn't going to let itself be taken easily. As Dr. Blackwell shared her findings with her colleagues, a new urgency began to take hold. Earth had a secret, and it was one that the Empire was unknowingly walking into. The energy surges weren't just an anomaly. They were a signal that the planet's ancient defense systems were awakening. If they didn't act quickly, Earth's hidden power could very well destroy the Empire's forces. Meanwhile, Commander Zorath remained at the command center, studying the reports coming in from his soldiers on the ground. The more he read, the more unsettling it became. The energy fluctuations were growing stronger, and the Empire's fleet was beginning to experience more serious problems. Shields flickered, weapon systems malfunctioned, and even the communication lines were filled with static. The humans, despite their primitive technology, seemed to have some sort of advantage that the Empire couldn't understand. But Zorath refused to accept that Earth could defeat the Empire. His pride and experience told him otherwise. He ordered the next phase of the invasion to continue. It would be a full-scale assault, and nothing would stop it. Zorath had faced many challenges in his career, but this one felt different. The strange energy, the malfunctioning systems, the resistance, it all pointed to something greater than he had imagined. But Zorath was not one to back down, and he refused to let this world prove him wrong. As the second wave of the Empire's forces landed, they were met with an even fiercer resistance. The energy surges from the planet seemed to react to their presence, causing massive disruptions in their technology. The Empire's ships hovered above the cities, firing down at Earth's surface, but the blasts didn't have the same effect they had on other worlds. Earth's defenses were growing stronger, and the Empire's forces were starting to feel the weight of the planet's power. Back on the ground, Dr. Blackwell and her team watched in awe as the energy surges escalated. Earth's ancient systems were coming online, reacting to the Empire's assault. The once sleeping defense mechanisms of the planet were beginning to awaken, and they were far more advanced than anyone had realized. Zorath had underestimated Earth, and the consequences of that mistake were becoming painfully clear. The Empire's fleet, though massive and powerful, was now facing an unknown enemy, the ancient power of Earth itself. And as Zorath stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the chaos unfold, he could only wonder what would happen next. Could Earth truly be capable of turning the tide of battle? Was the Empire's superiority about to be questioned by a primitive world that seemed to have something much more dangerous hidden beneath its surface? The stage was set, the conflict had just begun, and the galaxy would soon witness a battle unlike any it had seen before. The Empire's forces had arrived with overwhelming power, expecting a quick and easy victory. Earth was a primitive world, its inhabitants no more than a small, scattered collection of tribes, with no real defense against the mighty Galactic Empire. But as the Empire began its invasion, things quickly started to spiral out of control. The strange energy pulses from the planet grew stronger, and the Empire's once unbeatable technology began to fail in ways that no one could explain. What was happening on Earth, and why was this planet's energy so unpredictable? On the ground, the Empire's soldiers found themselves caught in a vicious battle they had not anticipated. Earth's resistance wasn't large, but it was fierce and resourceful. The humans fought with a desperation and determination that felt like something more than just survival. The Empire's forces, confident in their strength, were now struggling to maintain control. It was clear that something was at play, something beyond just the resistance of Earth's people. The planet itself was alive in a way that the Empire had never encountered. Back in the hidden lab beneath the surface of Earth, Dr. Elena Blackwell had made a chilling discovery. The energy surges were not just random fluctuations. They were the result of an ancient, dormant system buried deep beneath the planet's surface. Earth had been home to a long-lost civilization that, at its peak, had developed technology far more advanced than anything the Empire possessed. But this civilization had vanished centuries ago, leaving only remnants of their power hidden beneath the Earth. Dr. Blackwell and her team had uncovered ancient ruins, structures buried deep within Earth's crust, untouched for thousands of years. These ruins were the source of the energy surges. As the Empire invaded, the planet's ancient defense systems were slowly being reactivated. Earth was awakening, its long-forgotten mechanisms of protection stirring in response to the threat of invasion. The more Dr. Blackwell learned about the ancient civilization, the more she realized that Earth had a secret, one that the Empire had never even considered. The energy surges weren't just a random occurrence, they were a signal. The planet itself had been designed to protect against threats, to ward off invaders. And now, Earth was responding to the Empire's presence with all the power it could muster. Meanwhile, Commander Zorath watched as the situation on Earth became more chaotic by the minute. His forces had expected a quick victory, but instead, they were facing resistance unlike anything they had encountered. Ships malfunctioned, weapons misfired, and even the communication systems began to break down. It was as though Earth's very atmosphere was rejecting the Empire's technology. This wasn't a normal planetary defense. This was something far more powerful. Zorath tried to remain calm. His soldiers were well-trained and experienced, but this was starting to feel different. Earth wasn't just resisting, it was fighting back. And this wasn't a fight the Empire had prepared for. Zorath knew the stakes were high. If the Empire couldn't get control of Earth soon, it would lose everything it had gained in this sector of the galaxy. In the Empire's flagship, the Dominion, Zorath convened his most trusted officers. The fleet's systems were down, and reports from the ground were grim. His soldiers were being forced to retreat in places where they had once been sure of victory. The energy from the planet was overwhelming their weapons and technology. And worse, Earth's defenders were beginning to tap into something they couldn't explain, something that gave them a strange, powerful advantage. "Commander," one of his officers said, breaking the silence, "we are underestimating the humans. They're not as weak as we thought. And whatever is causing these surges, it's not from any technology we know." Zorath clenched his fists, the weight of the situation bearing down on him. He had led countless campaigns, but this felt different. His mind raced as he thought about the ancient ruins Dr. Blackwell had uncovered. Could it be that Earth's ancestors had developed technology that could rival the Empire's? If the humans had tapped into some ancient power, it could change everything. As Zorath brooded over this possibility, a new report came in from one of his commanders on the ground. The human resistance wasn't just armed with crude weapons anymore. In the wake of the energy surges, small pockets of Earth's defenders had begun using strange, seemingly supernatural abilities. Soldiers were reporting human resistance fighters able to manipulate the very energy in the air, using it to disable Empire machinery or enhance their own weapons. This was not a normal resistance. Zorath's jaw tightened. If Earth's resistance had access to this power, it could spell disaster for the Empire. His fleet was already stretched thin, and these new developments were making it harder to maintain control. The situation was becoming critical. On the ground, Dr. Blackwell and her team were racing to understand the full scope of the ancient civilization's technology. They had discovered that Earth's ancestors had not only created advanced machines and weapons, but had also developed a system of energy manipulation that could rival anything the Empire had. This system, however, had been dormant for centuries, hidden away in ruins deep underground. Now, Earth's people were starting to awaken it, unlocking the power that had been buried for so long. As Dr. Blackwell continued to study the ancient blueprints, she realized that the energy surges were part of a larger defense mechanism. Earth had been designed to survive against invaders, but it had also been built with a way to tap into the power of the planet itself. The more the Empire pressed its attack, the stronger the energy pulses became. Earth was not just a planet. It was a weapon, one that had been lying dormant, waiting for the right moment to defend itself. The more the Empire pushed into Earth's territory, the more chaotic things became. Zorath ordered his forces to launch another wave, this time aiming to break through the human defenses and force a surrender. The Empire's battle cruisers and assault ships began their relentless bombardment, raining down fire on Earth's cities. But Earth's response was immediate and powerful. Energy surges erupted from beneath the surface, and the atmosphere around the planet began to warp and crackle with energy. Empire ships were hit by massive shockwaves that sent them spiraling out of control. Some ships were torn apart in midair, their hulls disintegrating as Earth's power overwhelmed them. On the ground, humans using the ancient energy began to strike back, their powers growing stronger with each passing moment. The tides were turning, and the Empire's once unstoppable forces were now on the defensive. Zorath stood at the helm of the Dominion, watching the destruction unfold. His fleet was in chaos, and the humans were starting to overwhelm his troops. His officers scrambled to find a solution, but none could offer any clear answers. The Empire's technology was no match for the energy emanating from the planet. Earth wasn't just defending itself, it was retaliating. Back in Dr. Blackwell's lab, she looked at the data pouring in from the surface. The ancient defense systems were awakening faster than expected. If Earth could maintain this level of energy manipulation, the Empire's forces would be powerless. But there was still so much to understand, so much that they hadn't yet unlocked. And if they didn't act quickly, the Empire might find a way to shut it all down. Dr. Blackwell knew that the battle for Earth was only just beginning. The Empire had underestimated the planet, and now It was fighting back with the power of its ancient past. If Earth could tap into its full potential, the Empire might regret its decision to invade. And as Zorath looked down at the chaotic scene unfolding on Earth, he realized the Empire was in a fight for its very survival, one that it had never anticipated. The humans weren't just defending their world. They were tapping into an ancient power that could destroy everything the Empire had built. The true battle was about to begin, and neither side knew what the outcome would be. The battle for Earth had escalated beyond anything Commander Zorath or the Empire had prepared for. The planet, once thought to be a simple, weak target, had proven to be anything but. The strange energy pulses that had initially been dismissed as insignificant had now become the Empire's worst nightmare. Earth's ancient defenses were awakening, and the Empire's forces, once confident in their superiority, were now on the verge of being overwhelmed. The energy surges coming from the planet were intensifying, creating violent atmospheric disturbances that crippled the Empire's advanced technology. Zorath watched in frustration as his fleet's ships continued to malfunction, their systems short-circuiting and shields flickering. His forces had been forced to retreat from the surface in several key locations, something that had never happened in the history of the Empire's conquests. The resistance, while still small, was growing bolder, and the strange energies seemed to empower them in ways that no one could explain. On the ground, Earth's defenders were beginning to use the planet's ancient power to their advantage. Armed with nothing more than basic weapons, these humans had somehow managed to tap into the very energy that had once been used by an ancient civilization to protect their world. Some humans, seemingly ordinary civilians, were now capable of manipulating the planet's energy. Zorath had received reports of resistance fighters capable of using telekinetic-like abilities, deflecting blaster shots with nothing but their minds, or even controlling the energy around them to disable Empire machinery. Dr. Elena Blackwell, who had been studying the ancient ruins beneath the Earth's surface, knew that the Empire had miscalculated. Earth's ancestors had built a defense system so advanced that it had remained dormant for millennia, waiting for the right moment to respond. And that moment had arrived. The planet itself was now fighting back. Earth was not merely defending itself. It was becoming a force the Empire could not reckon with. As Dr. Blackwell worked tirelessly to decode the remnants of the ancient technology, she realized something even more alarming. This power wasn't just for defense. It was designed to destroy invaders. Earth had been prepared long before the Empire had ever set foot in the galaxy. The ancient civilization that once called Earth home had created a system that could manipulate the planet's very core, using it as a weapon of mass destruction. But this knowledge had been lost to time, hidden beneath layers of rock and dust. Now, as the Empire's forces continued to press forward, Earth's energy systems were becoming more active. The planet was stirring, and its power was starting to surge uncontrollably. Zorath's once imposing fleet, the pride of the Galactic Empire, was now struggling to maintain control. His soldiers, who had been so sure of victory just days before, were now scattered and retreating in disarray. Zorath, ever the strategist, knew that if Earth's power continued to grow, the Empire's chances of success were rapidly diminishing. The situation on the ground was no better. The resistance, though still disorganized, was learning how to use the planet's energy to strike back with devastating force. In one major skirmish, a group of humans had used their newfound powers to cause massive explosions, obliterating an entire division of Empire soldiers and destroying several of their most advanced assault vehicles. The resistance fighters seemed to have tapped into a wellspring of power that the Empire's best scientists could not explain. The humans were no longer simply trying to survive. They were pushing back. The cities that had once seemed easy targets for Imperial bombardment were now transformed into strongholds of resistance. The energy surges, once isolated to small regions, were now spreading across the entire planet, destabilizing the Empire's hold on Earth and causing even more severe malfunctions in their technology. Communications were down, ships were falling from the sky, and Zoreth could feel the tide of the battle turning against him. In his flagship, the Dominion, Zoreth paced back and forth, trying to make sense of the chaos. His officers were offering reports, but they were all grim. The Empire's assault was stalling. The humans' resistance, once thought to be nothing more than a nuisance, had become a full-fledged rebellion, and the planet itself was becoming an enemy unlike anything the Empire had ever faced. Zoreth knew that something had to be done, and fast, if the Empire had any hope of claiming victory. His thoughts were interrupted by a sudden transmission. It was from Dr. Blackwell, who had managed to break through some of the ancient codes she had been studying. "Commander Zoreth," she began, her voice crackling through the communication link, "I have made a breakthrough. The energy pulses we've been experiencing, they're not just random bursts. They're coming from an ancient reactor deep within the Earth's core." Zoreth's eyes narrowed. "A reactor? Are you telling me that this planet has an active weapons system that could threaten the entire Empire?" Dr. Blackwell hesitated. "Yes. This system, it's beyond anything the Empire could have imagined. It's a planet-wide network that can manipulate the core's energy and direct it in ways that could destroy entire fleets. If Earth's defense systems are fully activated, it could obliterate our forces in a matter of hours." Zoreth clenched his jaw. This was worse than he had feared. Earth's resistance, empowered by the planet itself, was not only fighting back, they were now in control of the planet's power. And that power could annihilate the Empire's fleets in one catastrophic event. "I need a solution, Dr. Blackwell," Zoreth said, his voice hard. "If this system is real, we cannot let Earth have control of it. I need you to find a way to shut it down." Dr. Blackwell's voice grew tense. "I'm working on it, Commander, but the ancient technology is complex. I can't promise that I'll be able to disable it in time. The power surges are growing stronger by the minute. If we don't act soon, Earth's core will become fully activated, and no one will be able to stop it." Zoreth's mind raced as he considered his options. The situation was dire. His forces were being torn apart by Earth's energy, and the planet's defense mechanisms were becoming more aggressive with each passing moment. Earth was no longer just a conquest. It was a battle for survival. The Empire's dominance was at risk, and Zoreth couldn't afford to lose this fight. As he prepared to give new orders, a new wave of energy pulses erupted from the planet, this time more violent and concentrated than ever before. The ground beneath the Empire's troops shook, and massive shockwaves radiated out from the Earth's surface, sending Empire soldiers and machinery tumbling. The sky above the Dominion darkened as a storm of raw energy began to form. Zoreth realized, with a growing sense of dread, that the battle was no longer in his control. Earth's defense systems had become far more than a mere weapon. They had become the planet itself. And now, as the energy surged uncontrollably, the Empire faced the very real possibility of total defeat. The power of Earth was rising, and it was far more than Zoreth, or anyone in the Empire, had ever imagined. He stood at the helm of the Dominion, watching the chaos unfold below. His ships were being torn apart by the growing storm of energy. His soldiers were retreating in disarray. And Earth, this tiny, insignificant planet, was showing him exactly what it could do. Zoreth realized then that this was no longer a battle of technology or military might. This was a battle of wills, and Earth was not going down without a fight. The Empire had underestimated it, and now it was paying the price. The war was far from over, but if Zoreth couldn't find a way to stop Earth's awakening power, the consequences would be far worse than he had ever imagined. The situation was growing increasingly dire for the Galactic Empire. Commander Zoreth's once mighty fleet was now on the brink of collapse. The energy surges from Earth had escalated to an unprecedented level, tearing apart the very fabric of their technology. The Empire's carefully orchestrated invasion had devolved into an all-out struggle for survival. Zoreth stood at the command center of the Dominion, watching the chaos unfold. His officers, once confident in their ability to defeat Earth's primitive defenses, were now scrambling for any possible solution. The energy surges had completely disrupted their communications, and even the most advanced technology in the Empire seemed powerless against Earth's awakening forces. The ships, once powerful symbols of the Empire's supremacy, were now falling from the skies, their systems failing one by one. Back on the surface, Earth's defenders had become far more than just a resistance. They were a force empowered by the planet itself. The energy that had once seemed like a mere anomaly was now a weapon of unimaginable power, and it was in the hands of every human who stood against the Empire. Ordinary civilians, once thought defenseless, were now able to manipulate the energy around them, using it to enhance their weapons, shield themselves from blaster fire, and even disrupt the Empire's machinery. What the Empire had once seen as a weak, underdeveloped planet had become a formidable adversary. Dr. Elena Blackwell, still working tirelessly in her underground lab, had uncovered more about Earth's ancient power. The technology beneath the planet's surface was far more advanced than anyone had ever realized. The reactor at the core of the planet, designed to protect Earth from invaders, was now fully activated, and its power was surging out of control. Earth wasn't simply reacting to the Empire's invasion. It was fighting back with every ounce of energy it had. The Empire was facing a threat unlike anything it had ever encountered. "Commander Zoreth, the situation is escalating rapidly," one of his officers said, her voice shaky. "We've lost contact with several of our outposts. The energy pulses are interfering with our systems. If we don't find a way to disable the reactor soon, we'll lose everything." Zoreth's gaze remained fixed on the screen in front of him. His mind raced as he considered their options. Earth's ancient defense system was far beyond the Empire's understanding. The more they tried to invade, the more the planet pushed back. The energy surges had become so intense that entire fleets were being torn apart in mere seconds. "We can't let this continue," Zoreth said, his voice cold and determined. "I want a full-scale assault on the core. We need to shut down the reactor before it's too late." But even as Zoreth issued the order, a sense of dread settled over him. He knew the odds were against them. The Empire had underestimated Earth from the beginning. And now, as the energy pulses became more violent, it was clear that this planet was not going to yield without a fight. On the ground, Earth's resistance had turned the tide in their favor. The once fragmented groups of human defenders had coalesced into a unified force, fighting not just for survival, but for the very future of their planet. With the power of the ancient technology at their disposal, they were launching coordinated strikes against the Empire's remaining strongholds, using the planet's energy to cripple Imperial machinery and disable their weapons. Dr. Blackwell, now fully aware of the catastrophic potential of the reactor, knew that the Empire's assault on the core would only escalate the situation. If the reactor were damaged or tampered with, the consequences could be disastrous, not just for the Empire, but for the entire planet. Earth's power, once dormant, had been unleashed, and there was no turning back. She had a choice: help the Empire destroy the reactor and risk the planet's annihilation, or join the resistance and try to harness the power to safeguard Earth's future. The decision weighed heavily on her, but in the end, she knew she could not allow the Empire to win. The ancient technology was too powerful, too dangerous to fall into their hands. She contacted the human leaders, hoping that together they could find a way to stop the Empire without destroying their home. The battle for Earth reached its boiling point. The Empire launched a final assault on the reactor, sending wave after wave of troops to try and breach the underground defenses. But Earth's energy was not something they could simply overpower. The planet fought back with every surge, every pulse of power that coursed through its core. The once sleeping giant had fully awoken, and it was more than just a defense mechanism. It was an active force, determined to protect its home from the invaders. On the surface, the resistance fighters were locked in a brutal confrontation with the Empire's remaining forces. The streets were filled with explosions and chaos as humans, empowered by the planet's energy, fought tooth and nail to push the Empire out. But even as they gained ground, they knew the real battle was happening beneath the Earth's surface. The fate of the planet rested on whether they could prevent the Empire from reaching the core. Dr. Blackwell, leading a small team of scientists and engineers, worked feverishly to stabilize the reactor. She knew that if the Empire succeeded in their mission, Earth would be lost. But if they couldn't shut it down without causing a cataclysmic reaction, there was no telling what might happen. The ancient technology had been dormant for so long that no one truly understood its full potential. All they could do was try to control it and hope for the best. Zorath, growing more desperate by the minute, issued orders to his final wave of forces. The time had come for the Empire to claim victory, no matter the cost. Earth's resistance had been fierce, but the Empire's might could not be denied. If the core could be destroyed, the planet would fall, and the Empire would rule once more. As the Empire's forces descended on the reactor, the ground beneath them trembled. Earth's energy surged again, this time with an intensity that shook the very foundation of the planet. The Empire's troops were thrown back, their weapons useless against the raw power of Earth's defenses. Ships were ripped from the sky, and entire battalions were sent scattering in every direction. The planet had made its decision. Earth would not fall. In the depths of the underground facility, Dr. Blackwell and her team watched as the reactor's energy output reached a critical point. They had no more time. With one final, desperate act, Dr. Blackwell initiated the shutdown sequence, using the knowledge she had uncovered to harness the planet's energy and prevent it from spiraling out of control. The reactor's energy began to stabilize, the pulses slowly subsiding. For a moment, there was silence. The storm of energy that had ravaged Earth's surface seemed to calm, and the Empire's assault stalled. Zorath watched in disbelief as his forces were forced to retreat once again, the power of Earth proving too great to overcome. The Empire's invasion had failed. Commander Zorath stood in the command center, his face grim. He had underestimated Earth, its people, its planet, its power. And now, as the last remnants of his fleet limped away from Earth's orbit, he knew that the Empire had lost not just a battle, but a war. Earth had proven that it was more than just a planet. It was a force to be reckoned with. Dr. Blackwell, standing amidst the ruins of the Empire's last assault, looked out over the horizon. Earth had survived. The energy pulses had subsided. The planet's core stabilized, but Earth's power was now fully awake. The Empire's defeat was not the end. It was the beginning of a new era for Earth, one where its ancient power would be used to protect and defend, not just from external threats, but to ensure that Earth would never again be seen as a weak, insignificant planet. The Galactic Empire had learned a hard lesson. Earth was not just a target to be conquered, it was a force to be respected. And the galaxy would never be the same.